Good evening, everyone. We do have a Board of Health meeting this evening before we start our general council meeting. So if everybody would rise, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Chris will go ahead and take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Here.
Councilmember Hull?
Here.
Councilmember Pope? Here. Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Approve the minutes for meeting number 7 on September 20th, 2022 as presented. Recommendation, approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 517 Grant in the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa.
I'll go ahead and open the hearing for any comments. And I think, Jake, you're going to present.
All right, thank you, council. Thank you, mayor. The structure located at 517 Grant was placarded February 6th of 2021. The property was placarded due to poor living conditions and structural issues. The department has had limited contact from the owners, and there have been several missed inspections. The house has been open to the elements during the duration of the file and has had squatters take residence in it. Very little to no progress has been made, and it continues to deteriorate. The city has had to contract a cleanup on the yard, and there's no current repair plan or permission. Condemnation notice was served by certified mail, posting notice and in the Ottumwa Courier. The staff recommends condemning the structure at 517 Grant.
Does council have any questions for Jake? Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak regarding this property? If not, I go ahead and I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 517 Grant, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation, approve the condemnation of the structures located at 517 Grant.
Move the recommendation is presented.
Second. Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 1016 South Weller in the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa.
I'll go ahead and open the hearing for comments, and I believe, Zach, you're going to present on this.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. We did get notice that according to the procedure laid out in the code, that the property owner had a representative that wanted to speak at the hearing. So we did prepare a complete sort of process for that hearing. And I'll start. I got a few slides if you want to pull the first one up, Edward. This is the structure at 1016 South Weller. It was placarded in October 26, 2021. This was after we had nuisance files open continuously since November 5th. The property was originally placarded for lack of utilities, but further inspections identified structural deficiencies as well as issues with living conditions. The building was so cluttered that you couldn't navigate inside the building at all. There's damage to the roof and other exterior members, and there was a lack of functioning facilities. You couldn't use a kitchen or anything else in the home. The owners made no progress on the exterior or interior issues in the property. We had to issue several citations and then conduct a cleanup on the outside of the property by court order. And that's really the only change that's happened is the work that we've done. These are some photos. This is typical of the outside condition. And since the cleanup, it looked better than this. We're already moving again into this direction currently. This is inside the home. This is typical around the kitchen. And then this is other parts of the home as well. It's impassable, and you can't use any of the facilities as well as the issues otherwise. And then this again, more photos inside. The owner has not demonstrated progress toward curing any of the deficiencies, and all the progress that's been made has been the cleanup action that we took. The building continues to deteriorate, and sort of anticipating sort of some of the comments that we received earlier, there's really small basic things that could be done to show progress, things that wouldn't have significant cost, including cleaning up on the inside, and none of that has even happened to date. So that's all we have to present. We do believe that past precedent, every other sort of condition in the code, that this is the right action to take with this property.
Is the property owner here?
No, he's not. I'm his cousin. I'm representing him.
Okay, would you come up to the microphone and give your name and address, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Bradford Henry. My address is 1508 Chester Avenue. I'm speaking on behalf of my cousin, Colt Stewart, for 1016 South Weller. There's mitigating circumstances in this that he came to me several weeks ago. The family actually did. One of the biggest issues we're having right now is Colt had a home invasion 2 years ago, was shot in the leg. He suffers from severe PTSD. He suffers from anthrophobia, fear of people. He suffers from agoraphobia. He doesn't want to leave his house. He doesn't even want to go outside. He's being treated. He's seen a psychiatrist. He's seen a social worker. But this property is all he has. And I don't see how it would be a service to the community, stewards of our community, to just take this guy with these mental health issues and what? Make him homeless? I understand it looks bad. It's been cleaned up substantially since these pictures right here. I went inside, yes. I wouldn't live that way. But part of the problem here is he has no legal representation. With the legal aid, they don't have the resources. So I called the USDA. They said that they could fix some of the Draco damage that was caused outside. His taxes are paid, but he has no representation. None. He has no one to litigate for him for his property rights under the Fifth Amendment. He has no one to litigate whatever equity he has in the home. He's just going to lose it, and that's gone. In his mental health disorder, that's the major issue. He's currently applying for SSI, but we know how that process is if anyone knows anyone who went through it. Really what he's guilty of is being poor, having severe mental issues, and no help. I pray that you take in consideration these things and give us a chance to help him get that property right. Like I said, my family involved me 2 weeks ago. They had no one else to go to because legal aid turned him down. But he does deserve legal representation as far as I'm concerned if he pays his taxes.
So he's still living in the mobile home?
I don't believe so. I know he's gone over there and cleaned it up, and I met him over there so I could look at it before I would come down here and talk because I wanted to know what I was talking about. And yes, it did look like that. He worked on my truck maybe a year ago and it looked like that, but it doesn't look like that now. It's not near as bad as that now. And yes, did people have to come in and cart his stuff off? Yeah. But he needs help. I see no justice in just putting him on the streets. It's just putting another person with mental health on the streets. I beg that you just give him one more extension, see if we can help him get through this. And if we can't, we can take it up then. But I just don't see the justice in putting him on the streets.
The city would have had to give him a corrective action plan that he needed to develop in order to continue to live there. Have you seen the corrective action plan
Yes.
that the city gave to him that
Yeah.
cited the things that had to be fixed?
Yeah, and he doesn't understand those things. I mean, he doesn't understand the outside world. He's so messed up from the home invasion and getting shot. I mean, literally, he doesn't want to go outside the house. And I've got together with family members. I know people that'll go over there and help me. I just don't want to see this poor kid with the mental health issues he has walking around the streets. That doesn't do Ottumwa any justice. Doesn't do him any justice.
So he is living somewhere else temporarily right now?
I don't know. I think he's jumping from house to house, living in a car, you know.
Okay.
So you've mentioned multiple times about family making you aware. How long have they been made aware of this situation?
Well, he has his father, who was the one that contacted me through my ex-wife, but he only has a handful of people. But I have more than that could help. My side, he's a second cousin. My side of the family can't help him. Just no one came forward and said anything until several weeks ago. And they were like, well, can you help us find a lawyer? I went through the process. Legal aid couldn't help. I talked to Tasha Johnson, I believe it was. She runs it. She said that they didn't have the resources. I did contact a guy named Reese at the USDA that does the Draco damage repairs. They said that he would probably eligible. He's probably eligible for grants. But yeah, he doesn't understand this process. All he knows is he doesn't want to go outside and he doesn't want to face the world. And this is the world coming down on him right here. And I understand what you're saying. That's not good. That's not the way to live in any property. But there are mitigating circumstances here. He doesn't understand this.
But what assurances would the city have if an extension's granted and family helps develop a corrective action plan and get those things corrected, and then 6 months or a year later, we're right back to the same situation?
And I understand. You're right. I get what you're saying, but really no one's stepped in to really help him out before.
So I have a couple questions. So you also identified a social workers involved, correct?
Well, I know he said he sees a social worker.
Okay, because I don't know how they would allow him to live in this. I mean, there's no way a social worker would allow him to live in this, the safety concerns that come for this. And I think of also about the liability that the city takes on, that if we say, yes, we're going to give you an extension and he's living in this home and a fire were to happen, that's a liability on us too.
Yes, it is. It is a liability, but it's not that bad now and we will get it better. I understand what you're saying.
I think you're saying the outside's not that bad, but I think you also commented that the inside's pretty significant too.
Yeah,
Like,
but about 3 or 4 people and a bunch of garbage bags in about 2 weeks will fix that problem.
so, and again, I think I asked you a little bit ago, when was the family, I guess, how long has the family been made aware? And maybe,
Well, I'm sure they've been aware for a long time. His dad is always with him, but beyond his dad, he has a girlfriend that's never around. I mean, in most of the families dead and gone, or lives in Flores or lives out of town. Really, all he has, like I said, is his dad, his girlfriend, and then he has other family that, like, I'm a second cousin. So he has other family in town. He just never approached us about it.
Yeah. So I guess that's my concern too, is that you're identifying that if we allowed an extension and gave further time, that now the family's been made aware. But I think that you've also identified that there's potential that his father has been made aware of this probably for the last year when this has happened, and nothing has happened.
Well, his father's no help. He's a fragile old man. I mean, there's no help he's going to get from his father. Like I said, they should have came to us earlier.
Yeah.
I've dealt with situations like this before. I've had rentals in the past a long time ago, but I got out of that business. All I can do is pray that we take a look at the mitigating circumstances, that he just doesn't know how to ask for help. And this is a member of our community with some really bad mental health issues.
And I guess maybe this is a question for Zach. So there was legal proceedings, correct?
We're not on questions with staff yet, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
We want to see if does any other council members have any questions that
I
they'd
guess
like to ask?
Just for clarification, this is probably best answered by Zach. Did you say that there was water or there is no water?
We'll get back to staff in a minute. We're going to
Okay,
finish with the
sorry.
appellant.
But can I speak to the water? He got seated to pay for the water, but then what he told me was when they showed up to turn the water on, that the health department told him no, they could not turn the water on because the place was condemned or whatever. So he did get the money approved. I should have brought that paperwork with me, but he called down to CETA. They paid his $400 and something water bill. When they went to go hook it up, they were told they couldn't hook it up.
I felt bad that your family member is the mental issues and everything, and I think everybody in here feels the same way as far as that. But what we're seeing as a council is nobody does nothing once they get placard, and then they're warned again, okay, what's your plan and everything, and no one does nothing until the rubber's about ready to meet the road. And then we have nice people like you that had just found out recently, but they've had over a year
Yes, sir.
for somebody to help do something. So my fear would be 6 more months down the road, we're in the same situation. And if the place was condemned, it's not so much that he needs an attorney, he needed someone to help him clean this place up. It wasn't an issue for an attorney. It was an issue as whoever went to visit him throughout the last 2 years, and this started, I believe, 2 years ago, someone should have pitched in and helped, whether they was a family member or friend or something.
I understand what you're saying, but I still, as I see it, he pays taxes and he has legal rights to the property, which means that he should have counsel. He's guilty of being poor and disabled, mentally disabled. That's what he's guilty of. That's what
How
that
long
is.
ago was the shooting? Can I ask you that?
It's roughly 2 years ago. It was when it happened over by Lincoln. The guys ran after they shot him. Do you remember that? I can't remember the exact date. Yeah, it was roughly 2 years ago, I believe. Year and a half ago. It might have been more than that.
Does council have any other questions before we go to staff response? Is there anyone else here, sir, that wants to speak regarding this property? Or are you the only person?
I'm the only one.
Okay. Any other final comment before I turn it back over to staff to respond?
Just that we're all stewards of our community and he is part of our community, and that is unacceptable. But putting a mentally disabled person on the streets, jumping from car to house, that's no, from where I sit, that's no answer. Is he worth another shot after this amount of time? I think so, because he's finally asking for help when he should have asked a long time ago. He's guilty of not asking for help, being poor, and having a mental health issue.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Zach, do you have any response or clarifying statements you want to make?
A few things. The first would just be a clarification that if any extension were granted, the house would still remain placarded. He wouldn't be able to occupy the dwelling overnight, things like that. So I do think, as far as concerned about taking on liability because we grant an extension, I don't think that's necessarily an issue. But I would, I guess, again, just direct to the same sort of thing, that it's been in this condition for 2 years. It's been placarded for over a year. There have been people at the property when we've been there other than the owner. And that seems like there's been people who will come up and, confront our cleanup crew, or people who will try to sort of be there to, resist any kind of consequences, but it doesn't seem like anybody's been willing to come and actually help him. And that is unfortunate. The program isn't there to find bad people or punish people, but the property does have consequences to himself and then also to the people who live in that neighborhood and have, been calling our office again and again for years, checking on the conditions. So I think that if the council were to be interested in doing some sort of extension, we could figure out, as we have in other cases, some sort of things that we would put into that motion to make sure that we got that issue back quickly if there were, a lack of follow through. But there are some significant issues with the property, and it's beyond a matter of cleaning it up. There's structural issues with this dwelling. So the only other thing I would note is I don't know the program that's being looked at with USDA. In the past, I know that properties in the city have not qualified for any USDA programs because we have a population larger than 20,000. So I'd be a little concerned about that particular program, but there are other alternatives. However, I know that the Housing Trust Fund can only do emergency repairs and those sort of repair programs for homes that have a certain amount of value. And I don't know if the value in this would be high enough because they have to be able to underwrite the no interest loan. So that's the comments that I have.
Does City Council have any questions for Zach?
So just again, to clarify, does this have running water? Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, I'll answer on that. So we were approached just recently by the utility asking about turning the water on. And we said that this was set for hearing at this date. We'd probably be able to release the water and have the water on. It'd be nice to look and make sure that the plumbing's adequate before we release the water. And it isn't really possible to do that right now.
Any other questions from council?
Just, so there's already been legal action, correct? Did I understand that right?
So the legal action that's occurred so far in the court system has been for exterior nuisance issues. I think there were at least 3 citations, and then there was a judge's order to do the cleanup. And the property does look better on the outside, but again, that's because we did the cleanup.
Any other questions from council? I guess I have one question for the appellant. As Mr. Simonson said, it's not just a matter of cleaning this property up. There's some significant structural issues to the mobile home. Is the family willing and able financially to make those structural changes if an extension were to be granted or not?
I know that I can get help throughout the family, and I can also research grants. There's a lot of them out there. I would absolutely try to help him do whatever needs to be done to the property, but I don't know the extent of the damage as far as the structure goes itself. I do know that some of it was damaged during the Draco. I would really have to know how much, because I mean, if you've been to Menards lately, things aren't cheap. So I can't guarantee anything, but I can guarantee that he does have help now.
I guess I will say this too. So this, as you've said, he has, he's dealing with some mental health issues also. And I mean, we can see that from these pictures that this is probably mostly mental health. My concern is that we allow this to happen, the family steps in now, but what happens in 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road? I mean, the potential for this, if he's not having the help that he needs, the potential for this is very likely again.
Well, he is seeing a psychiatrist. I know that. So he is getting help in that department with his PTSD and the other issues he has. And it's all, it all comes down to, what do you really want to do? I mean, is this worth taking a risk? I mean, I would say, with the way the yard is now and what he has cleaned out of the house, because he has done some work since he realized he was going to probably lose it, and that's why he contacted me. In 6 months from now, if he hasn't met the standard, of course, take the house away. I mean, I'm only going to help him one time, but he really wants the property. He doesn't want to lose the property. He wouldn't have come to me. He doesn't normally talk to people about anything. And I'm one of the few people he'll talk to, because I've known him since the day he was born. So 6 months from now, I intend on making sure that it's cleaned up and structurally sound. And if it's not, he'll lose it then. But at least he'll have a shot with help this time, rather than just sitting there locking himself in a room, having anxiety attacks over and over again, instead of doing what he's probably supposed to do, which is get off his butt and get it done.
So you asked, what do we want to do? I'll tell you, I want to not have to have situations like this. I want, when Zach's department comes up to someone, as stressful as it is, I want our citizens to follow through with their plan, to work with Zach and their department. They're giving chances, and they're willing to work with the citizens of Ottumwa. And I think that, I don't want to speak for the rest of the council, but I don't think anyone else likes sitting up here having to have conversations like this. That's what I, as a council person, want, is to work with our department on this, so we're not here.
Yes,
And then, because we keep getting asked about, give us another chance, give us another chance. Well, Zach's department's there to continue to work with people to ensure that we don't get to this point. But then, here we are today.
Yes, ma'am. I understand where you're coming from with that situation. It doesn't look good, but it's just going to be another mentally handicapped person on the street as the result of what we're going to do here today.
So I guess my question is, are you willing to be that person to oversee everything for the 6 months? Because we can't put it in position for someone who's mentally not capable of making these decisions, but also that's mentally not capable of picking up and cleaning up and doing what he needs to do. So someone, and I don't think it just needs to be 6 months, that somebody needs to oversee what's happening with him. Being family, look out for your family.
Yes.
making sure his bills are getting paid. If he's getting money in, somebody need to oversee that and make sure his water don't get cut off, his gas don't get cut off. So are you willing to be that person that's going to step up for him, not just temporary? He's going to need a step up for somebody to step up for him for a long time.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I mean, other than raising kids, I don't work. I get my military benefits, so I have all the time in the world to help him. And he is my family, and you just don't walk out on your family. So yes, I will be there. I will oversee it. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't going to, and if that wasn't my intentions.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other final questions from council? If not, I'd entertain a motion to close the condemnation hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 1016 South Weller, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative cost, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation: approve the condemnation of the structures located at 1016 South Weller.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
No.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 734 Center in the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa.
I'll go ahead and open the condemnation hearing, and Jake, I believe you're going to present.
Thank you. The structure located at 734 Center was placarded March 2nd, 2022. The property was placarded due to a house fire. The department has had no contact from the owners, and there has been several missed inspections. The house has been open to the elements during the duration of the file. No progress has been made, and the house continues to deteriorate. The city has had to mow the grass during this season, and there's currently no repair plan or permission. Condemnation notice was served by certified mail, and posting notice on the property and the Ottumwa Courier. The staff recommends condemning the structure at 734 Center Street.
Does council have any questions for Jake? Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak regarding this property? If not, I would entertain a motion to close the condemnation hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 734 Center, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation: approve the condemnation of the structures located at 734 Center.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I would request a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. And now we'll go ahead and start our regular city council meeting, and Chris will take the roll call for our council meeting.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Here.
Councilmember Hull,
Here.
Councilmember Pope,
Here.
Councilmember Rowe,
Here.
Councilmember Galloway,
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Here.
Councilmember Hull,
Sorry. Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Pope, Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
Okay, now do we have an approval for the agenda for our council meeting tonight?
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
The next agenda item is our city administrator's report, so I'll turn it over to Phil.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Mayor. Before I listed item on the agenda here, the update from Gopip, I wanted to go ahead and introduce our current finance director, Wasim Nassar. He was mentioned at the last meeting, and he is here in person, starting his second week of work. And he's sitting at the table there next to Barb and Zach. So welcome, Wasim. And with that, then I will turn it over to Mark Rowe or is someone else providing the update? Or you?
No, I will.
Okay, to provide an update, the quarterly update from the Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress.
Thank you. So this is our regular quarterly update as provided and guided through the contract between Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress and the City of Ottumwa as part of the Chamber and Economic Development activities. So to talk about some of the positive things that we have seen in our organization that relates directly back to the contract of Gopip. Gopip has seen, with the economy the way that it's been, we've seen since COVID hit, we've seen a lot of downsizing of organizations. We've seen a lot of changes in the general economy. And obviously that flows over to organizations such as ours. And I'm proud to say that due to the efforts of our staff and some general realignment that we've had, we have seen the first 2 consecutive months of growth in membership that Gopip has had since 2020. So that's a milestone that we're all really proud of, and we intend to keep that pace going. And I think that we are on pace to keep that moving. So that was one of the points in the contract that the City of Ottumwa really wanted to see was more participation from Gopip to serve the organizations that we're meant to serve in the community, and I think that we're doing that. So another thing that we're doing, we had a remodel of our office building. We occupied 2 spaces in downtown Ottumwa, 215 East Main and 217 East Main. And obviously, it was with the staff size that we have, we weren't necessarily using all of that. So we've done a remodel of the office space, primarily the 217 East Main side, which is the legal address that Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress has been using for years. So we have moved everybody over to the 217 East Main side. That does a couple of things. It makes us operate a little bit more efficiency to where we can serve our members better. But additionally, it opens up a quality building downtown for another business to operate. So that has been something that, while we do see some of the remodeling of some of the other businesses downtown, or some of the buildings downtown anyway, we having some that are ready to go out of the gate has been sometimes a challenge, especially when you're specifically looking for office space. So the remodel of this building allows for that additional office space that's ready to go right now. So we're pretty happy about that. And then just another item of housekeeping for organizational health. We have created a strategic partnership with the South Central Iowa Workforce Development Board. And that's important because one of the key areas for economic development is creating a viable workforce and being able to report that workforce to, number one, the people that we're serving, but equally as important when we're going out and trying to recruit new business, recruit new industry to the community, having that information at our fingertips to be able to guide the potential business coming to town, what our available workforce is, and how we can attain that workforce quickly. So we're really excited about moving forward with that partnership. Okay. So another thing that we've been working on very diligently over the last 6 months specifically, but looking back from the last time that we had this conversation in council chambers, is the brand awareness of Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress and how we are making our presence known and how we're getting communicated with. One of those things is web remapping. When we originally looked at the gopip.org website, it was heavily focused on the economic development component of the organization. However, Gopip does two things. It's serving the businesses that are already here, along with economic development for prospecting business outside of the walls of Ottumwa. So we remap that to where everything has an equal footing, with adding a component of starting a business. So if people do want to start a business, we have a one-stop shop that people can go to get the information that they need to effectively start a business and not risk making mistakes along the way. So we've done that. We've also Lois, which is basically the equivalent of a site selector for both business properties and buildings. That had been not paid attention to very well over the last few years. So we revamped that, we've updated it, and now as a result of that, that is our highest traffic on our website. One of the other things that we're doing specific to economic development, we're working with the Mission 500 in creating the landing page for developers to come to if they need information, for example, where they get permitting, what available lots are in the community, what resources that they need to get a hold of to start the construction process. That will be housed under the Gopip website going forward. Social media, as much as we all want to try to not admit that that's the area where most people are at, it is where most people are at. So we've focused fairly heavily as far as our brand awareness on our social media. And since April, we've seen 21% organic, or since March, I guess, we've seen 21% organic growth on across all of our platforms, which is fantastic. That is not paid growth. And we've also most recently launched a TikTok account, which, for the 40-something-year-old guy, that's kind of funny. But anyway, we have launched it and we are using it now. So additionally, we have launched Talk Ottumwa, which is a podcast that focuses on the businesses that are in the community and economic development initiatives. And the point of this, number one, is for advertisement for the businesses that are already here in the community that we at Gopip are serving. But more importantly, it serves as an educational tool for the citizens of Ottumwa to learn about the things such as Mission 500, such as some of the development things that are going on in the community, Indian Hills Community College, what they've got going on. This is a really good platform for people to get on and learn about those issues and businesses. So I'm not exactly sure. We don't really have anything like this in Ottumwa right now, so I don't know what the benchmark is, but we've seen over 600 unique downloads and over 1,000 streams so far. So for something that's just starting out, I'm going to take that as a win. And we also have, in marketing ourselves, we've created a new investor portfolio to take out to potential investors. That way there's less ambiguity on what Gopip is and the various things that we do put on as an organization. And I did lay one of those out for all the council members to see. So this gives them an option to learn themselves, what Gopip can do for them that will impact their business in the most positive way. Going on to the events that we've had in the last 3 months, one of the key areas of focus for Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress obviously is advocacy for the businesses that we serve. We have relaunched the Eggs and Issues, which is where member businesses and the general public can go and talk with panelists and learn about a specific issue. For example, this one here that you're seeing is substance abuse and mental health that we did in September. Very well attended. People seem to really enjoy the presentation, and I assume at some point in the future we'll be doing follow-up conversations regarding that subject. We do invite all of our governmental representatives to each one of these forums, and so as an example, Senator Grassley's office, Representative Miller Meeks's office, and Representative Westrich was in attendance at this. So it gave them an opportunity to, number one, to talk to their constituents, number two, to hear the concerns of the community, and maybe come to some solutions for some of this. Another event that Gopip put on through July 2nd was the Greater Ottumwa Rodeo. We had over 600 paid attendance for that 3-day event, a total of 1,200 in attendance. Economic impact estimated at $1.2 million for the city of Ottumwa for that event. We did this year as one of our key initiatives, and one of our priorities for the year is including an element of diversity, equity, and inclusion in every event. And I believe that we did that with this event, offering some performances from the Hispanic community. We did see several a cross section of culture at the rodeo this year, so that was fantastic. And we'll continue to expand that going into the next year as well. The Ottumwa Duck Races was another event that we conducted this year. That was in September downtown. We had $3,000 through the event that was raised for charity. And then one of the winners was gracious enough to donate back their winnings to the same charity. So a total of $4,000 was raised through that event for the charity, which this year was Heartland Humane Society. We did add craft vendors to this year's event, and we had expanded children's activities with Community First Credit Union Partnership. And what's really, for all the dog lovers, we did have 2 senior dogs that were adopted from the event, so that's pretty cool as well. One thing that we're really excited about, speaking of diversity, equity, and inclusion, is we are going to be doing a regional event starting March 8th of next year. It'll be an annual event. The significance of March 8th is it's International Women's Day. So we'll be holding that in Ottumwa. We've already started the planning process and the marketing for that event. We've got a keynote speaker contracted already, Jenny Lawson. She's an author. And we are sending out the RFPs currently for the speakers. So we're excited about that event. We expect to see a good crowd regionally from that. This is not something we intend to just market inside of Ottumwa. We intend to really push the entire Southeast Iowa quadrant. And then finally, when we talk about events, we are doing something a little bit different now, and we are bringing in outside people to make sure that all of our events, number one, are meeting our mission and doing what we expect it to do for the community as a whole. We're looking at profitability and, more importantly, viability of the event moving forward, and then making sure that there's a community enrichment component to each one of those events. So they'll be doing all of that, planning for future events, and what could be most important out of all of that is making sure that we're creating a good enough volunteer pool that we can do those events successfully moving forward. Moving on to economic development, to talk about some of the things that Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress is doing. First of all, when we talk about economic development, I don't want anybody to get caught up in the thought that economic development is just recruiting an industry to the community or recruiting retail to the community, because economic development is really much more than that. Of course, those two things are a component of economic development, but there are other things that have to go in tandem with that. Otherwise, everything kind of falls apart at the seams. So when we talk about economic development, we're talking about those two things, but we're also talking about the things that make it possible for people to live and work in the city of Ottumwa. One of those things is childcare. Ottumwa and Wapello County is one of the more severe childcare deserts in the state of Iowa. And Gopip, in our part, we have secured an architectural firm and secured the funding to do physical design for a child care facility here in the city of Ottumwa, which has house between 125 and 150 children daily. So we do have the location designated. We do have the layout nearly complete with the architecture firm, and we are going to be working with the Child Care Coalition and starting a capital campaign as hopefully in December of this year. One of our biggest gems in the city of Ottumwa is the Ottumwa Regional Airport, and Gopip has for quite some time now working with the city of Ottumwa, the Indian Hills Community College, and several other interested partners, been working on an airport master plan, and that is nearing completion at this point, which will give us the ability to properly market the airport moving forward.
Mark, who's doing that assessment?
Bolton Mink.
Okay.
And as has been a topic of conversation at city council meetings here as of late, we talk about retail development. We have going back just a little bit, between Zach Simonson and myself going to a retail conference in Las Vegas. We've been making cold calls to retail developers to try to get the name of Ottumwa out. But more recently, the city of Ottumwa has signed a contract with Retail Strategies, and Gopip will be the administrator of that contract. And the initial community assessment actually begins tomorrow morning. So Retail Strategies will be here tomorrow morning to gather all of the information that they need to do a market tour. And they'll be going to Chicago to begin marketing the city of Ottumwa starting on Thursday morning. And in the way of housing, we're partnering with other organizations and hosting, again, going back to the beginning of this presentation, the informational section for potential developers on our website. And we are an active partner in the Mission 500 group here in Ottumwa. And again, to reiterate, back to the beginning, we're working with South Central Iowa Workforce Development Board. One of the things that we are doing is we helped sponsor, it's called Lightcast Data. It's a software that gives pertinent workforce data that we can use not only for marketing the city of Ottumwa to the outside world, but assisting our partners inside the city as well to help them with their workforce needs. We've been working with IJAG, with the Ottumwa Community School District, for mentoring some of the future workforce in Ottumwa. We just hosted the Iowa Association of Chambers of Commerce last week at the Bridgeview Center, which was pretty well attended. And I do want to take this opportunity really quick to give a shout out to Laura Carroll and Meet Ottumwa, because they did a wonderful job helping us out. And I don't think that it would have been as nice had they not been at the helm with us. So, and then of course, Helgerson Flats, we are actively engaging clients with a realtor from Des Moines to get that site up and running. And that primarily is an industrial site. So, oops. And then one last thing, I was glad that we were able to do this today. Looking at quality of life and marketing the community, we have launched a new campaign called Be the Ambassador, which harnesses the strengths and the branding of the Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress ambassadors. And what we're asking the citizens of Ottumwa to do is to, they themselves become the ambassadors for the city. And we're using the hashtag Be the Ambassador for that. So far, we're seeing a lot of viral effect on social media from it, and that's launching it at noon today. So we're pretty happy. What we're asking people to do is put this shirt on and give us a short explanation of, number one, what it is they love about the city of Ottumwa, number two, what made them move to the city of Ottumwa, and number three, what makes them stay in the city of Ottumwa and call it home. We're trying to reach out past just the typical people that are speaking for the city of Ottumwa, and we're trying to ensure that we are capturing a spirit of our own guarantee that we'll be a diverse organization. So we're capturing people in their native languages speaking. So when you see this campaign, you will see people speaking in other languages. It will not be translated, and that's part of the beauty of this program. Our goal is to get 1,000 positive messages out in the streets of Ottumwa with 1,000 of these shirts. We intend to capture all cultures, all languages, and all ages. So, and we anticipate this will have a medium range life cycle up to about a year or so. And if it goes on longer for that, then that's great. But so if you see people out wearing this shirt, this is exactly what this program is for, is to kind of remind the citizens of Ottumwa about, we hear the negative stuff all the time, but this is a good reminder of exactly what it is that makes Ottumwa great, and it's going to be told through the lived experiences of the people who you're going to be watching on video. So anyway, with that, unless anybody has any questions, that's kind of our report.
Are the shirts free?
They are free. So you do have to do a little bit of work for them. You do have to get on camera, and you do have to say what it is you love about the community. But after that, you can walk away with a shirt.
Okay, thank you.
I do have some follow-up for it if nobody else has anything. Some questions for you, Mark. So I'll start at the beginning of your presentation. You talked about the Lois, and the traffic has been updated. We're getting more traffic to Lois system and all that. Have you seen that actually translate to like sales of those properties, or are people just kind of clicking on it just to see what's out there?
As far as sales go, no. But what I have seen is people actively starting to call the Gopip office and ask about not only the property that's listed, but other available properties that are in the community, which is a good step forward for us.
That is very positive. So, so you mentioned the remodel of your guys' offices down there. Did you do that through an RFP or RFQ, or how did you pick the contractors on that?
We did send it out to bid, and we had three bidders come back.
Were they local, or?
All three of them were local, yes.
Awesome. I love to hear that, by the way. And the last thing I wanted to ask you about is Helgerson Flats. I've had a couple of conversations with people about that. Is there any thought between Gopip, the city of Ottumwa, or anybody else about actually getting to Helgerson Flats? Like, how are you getting semis there? How are you getting traffic in there? I know that's a development that we really want to kick off and get moving a lot more, but the traffic flow in there is kind of hard right now. So
yeah, there have been several conversations about that, and Larry can probably speak to this just a little bit. We have made some roadway improvements down there as far as getting the corners cut out just a little bit more for traffic to go through there. And obviously if depending on what goes down in there, ultimately there probably will have to be many more conversations about the infrastructure in that area.
Okay, awesome. And the last thing I got for you is this Be the Ambassador. When I seen it, I was like, yes, this is absolutely what we need. We need more positive communication in the city, and I think this will be a great program for the city and for Gopip. So thank you for that.
I just want to say, Mark, I do appreciate your detailed report, and I totally agree with what you're saying, that economic development is a multi-pronged approach, that you have to have all these things in play at the same time to get the maximum results. So thank you, and it's very clear to me, at least, that Gopip is doing some wonderful things for Ottumwa. So keep it up.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And echo the comments on the Be the Ambassador. I had the opportunity to see the first video, which is out, and it's pretty neat to see the people in the community speaking about all the good things and why they love living here. And so it's, yeah, go out, like it, click it, whatever you do on social media, and enjoy. That is all I had for tonight's report.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is where I ask if there's anyone in the audience that wants to speak on any of tonight's agenda items. And we do have 4 people that have indicated they want to speak on agenda item G3 and 1 individual that'd like to speak on agenda item G1. We also have an individual that would like to speak towards the end of our council meeting when we talk about things that are not on tonight's agenda. In addition to those 6 people, is there anyone else tonight that wants to speak on any of tonight's agenda items? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and get started. We have no public hearings tonight, so Chris will take us through the ordinances.
Ordinance number 3202, 2022, an ordinance amending Appendix D electricity franchise with Interstate Power and Light Company for the purpose of imposing a franchise fee. Recommendation pass the third consideration and adopt ordinance number 3202, 2022.
Is there a motion for the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
And Phil, I believe you're going to speak to this briefly.
Yes, so this is a follow-up from the prior 2 meetings. This is requesting that the city council approve the ordinance and impose a 3% franchise fee upon the electric utility. This is part of our franchise agreement with Interstate Power and Light, or Alliant. Currently, there's a 1% that is charged on the bills for local option sales tax. This would replace that. So it's a 2% difference over the current amount. Revenue received from the fee would be used to supplement the general fund. And it was outlined in a revenue purpose statement previously approved. First reading, it passed, technically speaking, 3-2. There was an absent council member that counted as a no vote. Second reading last meeting was 4-1. It is now before you as the third and potentially final reading.
Does council have any questions for Phil before I go ahead and have the gentleman in the audience come forward and speak? Okay, Mr. Cavanis.
Keith Cavanis, 2851 Oak Meadow Drive. Good evening, council, mayor. I come this evening with some thoughts. First one is everything that Councilman Rowe just presented could be affected by proceeding with this 3% fee. That means everybody coming to town and everyone in town would be subject to this tax immediately or as soon as it's enacted. So I have taken a little time to go out. I have about 100 signatures here in this petition. The petition says, to the Ottumwa City Council, the citizens signed below respectfully request that you do not pass the final reading of the franchise fee bill. We do not have enough money to pay additional charges on our gas and electric bill as it is, and this is for the next 25 years. I spoke with one gentleman today who operates a business in Ottumwa and has been here for some time. And I just simply asked him, if 3% were applied to your bill today, how much would that cost you additionally? He put a calculator to it and said, $117 more than my regular bill. So what we advertised was being maybe $3 to $4, wasn't taking into consideration the businesses and people who have higher bills to pay. So I would like to present this to the mayor and the council as a reference to about 100 signatures, and I close my request.
Thank you.
Does council have any questions for Mr. Cavanis? Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre,
No.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
So the third reading passes.
Ordinance number 3209, 2022, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2888, 2000, and granting to Mid-American Energy Company, its successors and assigns the right and non-exclusive franchise to acquire, construct, erect, maintain, and operate in the city of Ottumwa, Iowa, a natural gas system and to furnish and sell natural gas to the city and its inhabitants, and authorizing the city to collect franchise fees for a period of 25 years. Recommendation pass third consideration and adopt ordinance number 3209, 2022.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Phil?
Similar to the last ordinance, this is 3% that is looking at being applied against Mid-American or the gas utility. Again, there is a 1% local option sales tax that is currently on those bills. It would replace that with this, creating that additional 2%. Revenue received from this fee is used to supplement the general fund, has outlined in the revenue purpose statement previously adopted. And similar to the last ordinance, the first reading was 3-2 with the one abstention vote and 4-1 on the second vote, and is now moved to before you with the third reading.
Council have any questions for Phil?
I don't have a question, but I just want to, Phil, you've mentioned twice now that this supplement the general fund, but the one thing I want people to remember that yes, we're saying this supplements the general fund, but that revenue purpose statement states that we can only use this money for very specific things, and firefighters, police officers, payroll. That's one of the things that we can't use this to just go out and pave North Court and gold plate. We can't do that. That's not what this is for. It's for to help things that we need to help bring things out of the general fund that we could use that money for other things. So I don't want people to misconstrue that we're just doing this to bolster our general fund. This is a very specific thing that we can use this money for. And I don't want people to just get that wrong. So I want to make sure we get that out there. Sorry, it's being a pain. Somebody brought a bunch of children in and they messed with my microphone. So.
Any other questions or comments for Phil? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre,
No.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
Okay, the third reading passes.
Ordinance number 3210, 2022, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Ottumwa, Iowa by conditionally rezoning property generally located at 1235 Hutchinson Avenue in the city of Ottumwa and directing the zoning administrator to note the ordinance number and date of this change on the official zoning map. Recommendation passed second consideration of ordinance number 3210, 2022.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Zach, I believe you're going to present on this.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The owners of the property at 1235 Hutchison have applied for voluntary annexation. The annexation request will be considered November 1st. This is the ordinance which would rezone the property upon annexation. The ordinance will have its third and final reading at the same meeting on November 1st. Unimproved property, which is annexed, is typically annexed as AG, Agriculture Urban Reserve. This would rezone it to C1, Neighborhood Commercial, which is the lowest intensity zoning district, which would permit retail sales. The Plan and Zoning Commission did recommend the rezoning on a vote of 5-4, and they also recommended 2 conditions on the rezoning, and those are what's included in the ordinance before you. The first condition is that the property be developed within 2 years. If the development does not occur, then the zoning would remain AG and would need to seek further rezoning before any other use would be able to take place on the property. The second condition is that liquor sales and pawn shop uses not be permitted. Those uses are otherwise permitted in C1, but that restriction would apply in perpetuity to this property unless another rezoning action is taken to remove that restriction. The future land use plan designates the property as suitable for community commercial use. C1 classification is compatible with community commercial in the future land use plan as adopted in the 2040 Ottumwa Comprehensive Plan. Staff also noted that the development of a retail store is not incompatible with the surrounding neighborhoods, as the predominant uses are more medical service rather than commercial, but they do have similar features, including similar operating hours, maintaining large parking lots, and generating traffic. Pennsylvania is a major collector street, as was noted at a previous meeting.
Does council have any questions for Zach before I have the individuals come forward and speak? Okay, I'll call people individually. When you come up, please go ahead and state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes to present your information. Hunter McCoy.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Marcus, too.
We can share.
Pass
Oh, I
it
do?
on, Mark.
Let me pass it down.
Pass that down, please. I'll share.
So we can share.
Hunter McCoy, 11624 Bladensburg Road, about a quarter of a mile away from the proposed annex site. I'm speaking to ask the council a simple question of why do we need another Dollar General when the ones we already have in this town are very poorly ran, as you can see from the pictures that I shared with you guys. I think anyone who has been in the two that we already have would agree that we don't even need to consider a third Dollar General in this town until they clean up the two that we have. They're very unorganized, and there's many aisles you can't even walk down because they're that messy and blocked just by merchandise that is not put away. They've been closed numerous times this year due to short staff and have many help wanted ads hanging all over their stores. They can't even fill the jobs that they have, let alone trying to add more jobs with an additional store. Personally, I'm okay with a business going in there. I just think I think there's a much better option than Dollar General. For example, purely an example, if you were to put a Dunkin' Donuts in that location, they could have a drive-through and work great for the hardworking hospital and clinic employees that are in that area that have very few options coming in their commute into town to work or on their lunch break. They also would have similar hours, much more similar to a doctor's office that would close at 6 p.m. Rather than a Dollar General that closes at 10 p.m. That is if they have enough staff to even open the store. Again, that is purely an example, and I'm just trying to get the thought process going. But
Thank you. Nancy Anderson.
I also have pictures. I took them when I was at the store. My name is Nancy Anderson. I live at 1128 East Pennsylvania Avenue. The proposed Dollar General store would be right at my property's edge. I'm right there. That's my home. We've lived there for a long time. I have to ask if any of you have visited the Dollar General in the last month. I agree with everything that Hunter says. I recommend that each of you take a visit to both current Dollar General stores and see this complete disarray of aisles that you are unable to go down due to them being stocked with carts of boxes, as well as the floor and emergency exits are blocked. The Dollar General on Main has an unlicensed junk motor vehicle. Doors open. Can only imagine what's going on in that vehicle, or what has gone on in that vehicle. I visited both of the stores in the last week, and I'm appalled at the state of both stores. Do we need another Dollar General? If you haven't, OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration website, has a news release titled Profits Over People. From August of this year, Dollar General is yet again facing $1.2 million in penalties. This is in addition to the $6.7 million in penalties that have been issued against Dollar General since 2017. The article goes on to state that federal inspectors found the stores had exit routes obstructed, boxes of merchandise stocked unsafely. The article goes on to state that Dollar General demonstrates a willful pattern of ignoring hazardous work conditions and disregard for the well-being of its employees. Be glad to share that website. Sound familiar to anyone? This is describing the exact state of the two Dollar General stores that we currently have in Ottumwa. Are the profits of adding another Dollar General really that important to the city of Ottumwa to jeopardize the safety of its citizens? The OSHA article states it perfectly: profits over people. Are you willing to put another Dollar General store in this town to have a few extra bucks and disregard the safety of this town that you were put on the council to protect? Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Berry.
Avenue. So Mr. Mayor, council members, regarding the proposed annexation of that, understanding that Dollar General is not necessarily the target here. However, Dollar General is what is proposed to go in there. In Nancy's comment just earlier about go and look at those stores, right before this meeting on the Main Street Ottumwa Facebook page, it was noted that Dollar General was closed today. And then a representative of that store said the reason that they were closed today was to stock shelves and have a better customer shopping experience. Sorry for the inconvenience, we are closed. And then that was the one over by the mall. And then tomorrow, the one down here on Main Street will be closed for the same thing. Again, this is mostly, I believe, because of the noise that we are making about these stores. As we pointed out, 6 months from now, they could be the same way, and propose to put another store in that, or another store in this community. Leaves that open to have a third one in the same state. This exit that we have right there is a gateway for the community. Many people come in for the hospital and medical uses, as we point out. Yes, Pennsylvania is very much more medical use. Hutchinson and the street, which the name escapes me farther down, are much more aligned with residential, which I know was noted at the planning committee. In order to keep that gateway of our town looking more in line with how we want prospective businesses and such to see us, it would be, as general, our folks would like to see something better in there. But it also starts with you guys choosing to change that zoning. If you do that, then the Dollar General will be there, and many of our concerns will definitely be shown. As they've stated, the other two stores are definitely eyesores currently. Having a third Dollar General in that site, I apologize. I'm clearly very nervous up here today. They already have issues maintaining their staff, keeping the hours open. As you would like our citizens to be arbiters for this city, we ask that you as a city council help keep this city up to a level where when folks come in, they expect good quality, a good place to live, and to see that our retail stores are not exactly what represent us. So my request would be that you guys look at it as a community in that area. You've got, our folks have passed around a petition. You know, the people in that area, how we feel. We just ask that you look at that and consider our very much real life, day to day, how that changes for us. So.
Thank you. Laura Berry.
Laura Berry, 1120 East Pennsylvania. As the others have pointed out, they pointed out some points on Dollar General, but I want to talk about some other items. We purchased in that area just 2 years ago because it was a quiet neighborhood. You have the benefit of it being city and country, and it's a beautiful area. It's mostly residential in that immediate part. The medical clinics and thus that are there generally have hours that are to 5 o'clock. It's quiet on nights and weekends, and we really enjoy that part of it. This is not an underserved neighborhood. The Hy-Vee drugstore is just 3 minutes from the proposed location. And if people decide that they do want to purchase items from Dollar General, there is one on East Main, which is only 5 minutes from that location. We're also concerned about the appraised values of our homes that we've purchased in the area. We know that commercial use areas factor into value and marketability, and we don't want to see our property values go down just for tax profits. If you look at the Quincy Place store, I can remember when there were residences there and there's no longer homes in the immediate area. They've been zoned out or they've been phased out, and now it's commercial areas. There's reduced values on the East Main store. I've looked at on the assessor site since that store has gone in, and they've come down. Dave Basu, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, I apologize, on the Planning and Zoning Commission, pointed out that the petition that we had on the Main Street Ottumwa site, the investors and developers can see that, and that it makes a negative point. But I see that as a positive point, that we care enough about our community and the area that we live in, that we're concerned about the type of investor that's going into that area. As the others have stated, the cleanliness of the stores with the blocked aisles, the help wanted sign, lack of staffing. I know that there's going to be 12 new jobs that are going in there, but they're having problems staffing their current stores. And this isn't a problem that has just been this week, this month. There's numerous comments on Facebook about that go back. And I do have printouts of those statements. As Hunter presented you with the petition, there's other people in the area who don't think that this is a good idea and not a good fit for the area. So I would hope that you would consider their pleas as well. We'd also like to know what the future plans are. As with Quincy, it wasn't just developed for commercial. It didn't stop there. It moved on. There are more businesses in the area. We're concerned about what else is going to happen in our area in the future. Are there going to be other tax benefits that trump the community area that we have? And we would like that addressed as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does council have any other questions they want to pose to Zach before we do the roll call?
I'll make some comments real quick. So you asked about the land, what else is going to be put out there. We have a development. We have in our 2040 comprehensive plan, there is a land use, what we're going to do with everything around here. So if you get a copy of the 2040 comprehensive plan, you can get a map that will show you kind of what's going on out in that area. Sorry, it might have changed on you. But there's a map that shows the land use area out there. I think Zach could probably also point you out to more places that you can figure out what's going to happen out there at that area. To Hunter, thank you for the photos. I shop at Dollar General, Dollar Tree, all of those because they're good, cheap products. I'm not going to pay $6 for a sponge when I can pay $1 for a sponge. And the issues that that they've seen with the Dollar General as far as the shelves and the carts in the aisles. I'm very much, I've very much seen that myself. So that is a very big concern with mine. However, I do know that we are doing this based on rezoning this based on what the land owner is asking. So we'll take that into consideration. So I just want to say, I do understand your issues with the Dollar General itself, as far as the untidiness, the shelves not being stocked, the carts being in the aisles, the no associates to check you out when you go in there. I've experienced that. So I appreciate you bringing this information for us to look at. So thank you for that. So I don't have any questions for you though, Zach, sorry.
That's all right. I did want to make just a couple of additional comments. The first is that if you were to support any other type of commercial use, you would still have to rezone the property, which is the question in consideration here. To the sort of future of that area, this is the area built up around the bypass intersection. The expectation is that there might be further development in that area in the future, and further opportunities for commercial uses. I would imagine that is something that's going to happen. This, you know, for some people, I'm sure it's a very quiet, comfortable neighborhood. It's also a minor collector street with the ambulance 24/7. It's a neighborhood that's right next to the bypass and the expectations that came with the planning of the bypass. The only, I guess, last note is that it's not, you know, my position. I don't think it's the position or responsibility of anybody here to sort of shill for Dollar General or any particular store. But the question is about commercial use in general. But that it is probably encouraging that, as was noted, the stores are closing over the next couple of days to try to make adjustments because there was feedback. And if the community continues to voice feedback, we get results. We're going to be taking note of especially the junk vehicle complaint and pursuing an investigation there. So I think that's probably all we have to add.
Does council have any other comments or questions for Zach before we do the roll call?
Just a point of clarification, Zach, because I think that I respect all of the comments that have been made so far, and this really doesn't apply to the comments that they've made tonight, but some of the comments that I've seen specifically on social media. Who is it that purchased the land or has the tentative purchase agreement for the land?
I mean, the Dollar General purchased it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to point that out, that they are in fact the people. This isn't something that we can go and say, oh, we don't want Dollar General. We would rather have Casey's put a store there, or, you know, pick your company. Dollar General, in fact, has the rights to that land right now, correct?
Correct. And I think that it is probably worth considering that the annexation is one process. Without being annexed, a Dollar General might very well still be built there. It would just be outside of city limits.
Okay. Like I said, I just wanted to clear that up because there are a lot of people that think that somehow we are actively seeking Dollar General for them to purchase the land, and when in fact we didn't actually actively seek them. They had already taken that upon themselves to begin with, and it's a private land transaction at this point, and who owns the land is not up for the city to determine.
Yep.
Hey, Zach, so I heard you say you took note of, I think, a vehicle that's in the parking
That
lot.
was one of the comments, say that there was a junk vehicle in the parking lot.
So have you seen these pictures?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll pass them on to you, but can your department go in and thanks, Barb. Awesome.
If it's things related to fire exits, things like that, it might be
like
more
there's
the
a
purview of the
full-
fire inspector, but there might be some things that we can do as well.
So maybe it's the fire inspector we need to be passing some of these on to also. Okay.
Any other comments or questions for Zach? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
So the second consideration has passed. The The next item on our agenda is departmental reports and recommendations.
Discussion and direction regarding property acquisitions at 210 West Main and 160 River Drive. Recommendation, staff is seeking direction on how to proceed on these items.
Phil, I believe you're going to address this.
Yes, Your Honorable Mayor. So on July 5th of this year, the council adopted Resolution 183-2022. That was regarding the purchase of the depot from Iowa Heartland History Connection with anticipated closing date of August 17th. I'm sorry, let me correct that. It was the depot and clubhouse properties. As part of the acquisition, the abstracts were ordered for completion prior to closing. On September 20th, City Council approved an addendum to that purchase agreement to extend the timeline for closing due to the delay in the abstract process. The city has now received abstracts for both those properties. However, there was some missing information to provide a clean opinion of title. City staff is requesting direction regarding how to proceed. And we do have Christine Stone on the line. Combination of her and Jenna Sobrowski had prepared a memo for the council, was in the packet. It's available online in the packets for anyone in the public that wants to review that as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Christine to kind of highlight the options for the council moving forward here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Phil mentioned, there is a memo in the council packet that outlines what I'm going to briefly summarize this evening. The city did enter into a purchase agreement to acquire two separate properties. A title opinion has been prepared for the depot property. And in discussion with the attorney for the Historical Society, we believe that any title issues related to that property can be resolved. A formal title opinion has not yet been prepared for the clubhouse, but we do anticipate there being some title issues for the Historical Society to resolve, for the city to be able to take full title to that property. Pursuant to the purchase agreement, we are obligated to give the Historical Society an opportunity to rectify any of those issues. And so we will certainly do that. So essentially this evening, our recommendation is that the council direct us to complete that title opinion and give the Historical Society the chance to address any items noted in the opinion. And then we would like your feedback on how to proceed should the Historical Society not be able to address all of those issues. And basically the options at that point would be to renegotiate a purchase agreement for the depot property only, or continue to work towards acquiring both properties and potentially utilizing eminent domain to clean up any title issues that remain on the clubhouse property. But that would obviously involve additional expense and time to get that resolved.
So does council have any questions for legal counsel?
So if I'm understanding this correctly, basically what it is that we aren't able to verify that there's no claims against it as far as legal claims against either of the properties currently, and then we need to clear that up before we actually take possession of the property?
So my understanding.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So according to the purchase agreement, the seller is required to provide marketable title to both properties before the city would close on the properties. And so, reviewing the abstract and having a title opinion prepared and then resolving any title issues is part of that marketable title process.
So is basically we're just needing more time? Is that what you're, at this point, are you needing more time to clear those up, or do we need to do something different?
So right now, as I said, the formal title opinion hasn't been completed for the clubhouse property. We are working on that, and that will be shared with the Historical Society. We do expect that there will be some issues noted, some that can be resolved, and some that may not be able to be resolved. We don't know that yet. And so I guess we're just wanting to kind of alert you to that may become something that we will need direction then on how to move forward. So if you want to wait and provide the direction at that time, that's fine. Or if you have a feeling one way or the other now, you can let us know that as well.
I guess I would identify or recommend that we continue, like push out the closing, maybe 60 days end of the year, and really work to with the museum to get the clean title. I don't think that we need to. I mean, I guess if the museum's still willing to work with us, and I see some representatives here tonight, but I think that we should push the closing out to work to get those clean titles.
On both properties.
On both properties,
Yeah,
not just
absolutely.
one, on both properties. And then, I mean, I don't think there's a need to jump to, option 3 at this point. I think if we can continue to work together in good faith, then that would be the best, I believe.
Agreed. Part of this whole, and I talked with you, Phil, about this, the strategic advantages having the proximity of both of those properties right next to the Market Street parking lot, and just doing one and not the other kind of takes away from the beauty of having either of those properties. So I would rather us try to come to some sort of resolution on both of them as opposed to just going down the road of one of the properties.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with that. I think if it's just time that you need, I think time is, we've got time, and we can give you time to figure out and try and work with the Historical Society and get 2 clean titles to actually acquire both the properties. I'd hate to have one and not the other one. I mean, they kind of go hand in hand at this point. They're, you can't have one without the other kind of deal. So I'm in agreement with these two, that if that's the way we need to go, even if it's 60 days from now, we can look at it again in 60 days and see what's going on. But I don't think we need to jump to any conclusions right now. I think we can definitely work on it and get it resolved.
And the purchase agreement did include both properties for one price too.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
And I think that was part of what Attorney Stone was mentioning there, is that right now they're locked together. If we were to look at one and not the other, or even if we wanted to still acquire both properties, if we're looking to take title to one now and the other one at some point in the future, we'd have to separate, negotiate, prices for each, et cetera. Right now, the way it is, if you look at them both together, and maybe with a little bit of time, we can get clear title on both. For a council's benefit and the public, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Christine, but we're talking about looking back 40 years for a clear chain of custody. Is that correct?
Correct. So to have marketable title to a property, you need to have a clear record going back a minimum of 40 years and showing that, there are no liens or encumbrances or other issues with the title. And the particular issue with the clubhouse property is it's old railroad property. So the one of the deeds is from the 1800s. And it includes a heck of a lot more land than what is just the clubhouse. So there may need to be some survey work done to confirm that the clubhouse is included within that 1887 deed. So there's just some additional, due diligence and work that needs to occur to clear that up.
So that was kind of the issue with these properties, or looking at clear title, and that clubhouse piece, I think goes back about 9 years. And so that leaves 30 years where there could be something brought back at some point over the next 30 years. And let me be clear. I mean, the city council could move forward and just say, we're going to accept these properties as is and not have that clear title, and then wait it out for the next 31 years. That is an option as well. And that was the first option that was presented here. So I want to make sure you have that on the table too. But from what I'm hearing, to clarify, there's still the genuine interest in acquiring the properties, but it's wanting to do so in a way that is clear and clean, and both those properties in that manner.
Correct.
I agree with everybody that has spoke, but I'm a little concerned when Christine said that when the Historical Society digs into it more to find out more about that property, that we still may have a snag at the end of that. So I think what we could learn from this, and I advise the city, if we're in the future, before we buy a property, especially a private property with that kind of a value on it, we should hire a realtor to cover our bases, to let us know the ins and outs. Like here, we should have had an inspection and everything else, just like you would if you was going to go buy a property. If I was going to buy a property for $460,000, I'm going to make sure that there's structure there that's going to be good, that there's not something that we can't see that's going to cause problems. And to my knowledge, I don't think the city did. Moving forward, I recommend we do that.
Yeah. Well, just to clarify that point, we did have the staff do the inspection of the facilities. So we did cover that side of it. We didn't want to buy it sight unseen. And this is part of that process of the purchase process, going through and getting the abstract, making sure that everything is clear and clean before. So the purchase process, going through and getting the abstract, making sure that everything is clear and clean before. So there is an out. The city would not, like Attorney Stone said, we give part of this is an opportunity to correct any deficiencies with that title. If those can't be corrected, then the city has the option of saying, no, we're not interested. Thank you. No, thank you. It's not, there's too much risk there. Or as what I thought I heard, continue to move forward. And if it gets to that point where we can't provide clear title, that third option may be something that could looked at to provide that for us, that eminent domain action. And that would take care of any unknown outstanding interests, basically taking 30 years into 120 days.
Yeah, I think we're not taking a vote here. This isn't something that requires a vote. It's just a discussion and kind of a guidance. But I think we're mostly in consensus of, this is obviously something that we want to continue to pursue, something that we've thought, a lot of us have thought heavily on and wanted for a while now. And obviously the only direction with this depot I see is that the city obtains this depot, and then we were to make it a centralized hub for our transportation hub kind of deal. And it goes hand in hand with what everything we're doing downtown. So I think we are in pretty much consensus that we keep working on this, and then, in about 60 days or so, if we keep hitting snags, maybe bring it back to council at that time and talk to us about it. The only concern I have other than that is that we did agree upon a $480,000 price tag on this property, not knowing what the snags are. So like Councilman McIntyre said, in the future, we do need to maybe think about adding a something in there to the agreement that, if this costs us a lot more money than we're originally anticipating, maybe there's something in there that, we recoup some of our legal costs because of, this is something that we didn't anticipate. This isn't something that, we weren't seeing when we did this. We just took it at face value that we're going to have, certain set amount of legal fees, and now it might be a little bit more. So maybe in future negotiations, we look at that. So.
The other clarifying point I guess I would like to make, though, is the way real estate processes work, you really don't ever bring an abstract up to date or get a title opinion till you've agreed on an approved purchase agreement.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
that stuff always comes after the fact.
Yep.
But I understand what you're saying. There needs to be.
Just if we do get to a point where we are able to reach marketable title, then we would be able to renegotiate a purchase agreement and cover additional costs. If we keep that. Thank you for that.
We do have a couple individuals in the audience tonight from the Historical Society. Would either one of you like to make any comments or make any statements? You don't have to. I just wanted to know if you wanted to. Can you come up to the microphone and just state your name and address, please, just for the record?
Good evening. My name is Anthony Dupre. I'm one of the board members, and 506 Shaw is my address. At this particular time, we're here truly to listen and to learn. Our attorneys are working with your attorneys in an effort to get this resolved. Some of the points you made are very valid. By the same token, it's in the best interest, we feel, that this property ends up with the city. Honestly, we had other options, but it's not, in our opinion, and I don't think in your opinion, that it's best based on what Amtrak may do in the result. They don't want it in private ownership. So I think it's in our community effort to try to put this thing together, and I think it's the best possible solution. So we intend to work with you.
And if we don't do that, then it could, like you indicated, possibly jeopardize that whole $13.8 million that Amtrak is willing to spend on renovating and then updating the depot and the landing and the platform.
Yes, that is true.
Thank you.
Phil, Mayor, it sounds like we have a consensus to move forward with allowing more time to try to clear the deed.
Yes.
Does somebody want to put that in the form of a motion?
I motion what I just said.
I second.
Wait a second. Make sure Chris gets it down.
Yeah, I just have to move forward to allow more time to clear the deed,
Yes.
to clear the title.
Do you think putting a date like the end of the year, December 31st, or?
I'd say if that is the direction, if you want to leave that open and give myself and the mayor discretion to work with the attorneys, and if they come up with a date to be able to sign an addendum to that effect when we know more.
Perfect.
I agree on that to one point, but you understand that we want this done sooner rather than later. That's the only addendum I would say is sooner rather than later. I understand this might take some time, but as my direction would be, just be very wise of the time.
I think
and
everyone's motivated to get to that point. So I don't think we're going to sit on this.
I do too, but I think it's very much worth voicing that opinion that this is a time motivated thing.
Yes, if we get to a point where I'll say there's a stalemate or there isn't any potential action of being able to clear title, we would bring that back to council to let you know the options. And if that includes this potential for eminent domain to make that happen or whatever it might be. And we'll want to look at potential pros and cons of that, not only to the city, but for the museum as well, if the property were to be claimed through that eminent domain process. Dollar-wise, things would be made whole, but is there any negativity that, it has a bad connotation to it? And so just making sure that nobody's harmed in that process.
If there's no further discussion, since the motion's been made and seconded, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Community Planning Month Proclamation. Recommendation, Mayor to issue proclamation and staff to provide update on planning activities.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'll try to be quick. October is National Community Planning Month, which is an opportunity to celebrate the work that's done by city staff, community partners, and the members of the public, including the folks who serve as volunteers on boards and commissions, but also the folks that turn out to public hearings to provide their input on projects. This month, the American Planning Association Iowa chapter hosted its annual conference here in Ottumwa, and that was really exciting. The city and Mission 500 received the Best Practice Award for their work on housing. That award goes to one project every year, which emphasizes results and demonstrates state-of-the-art planning methods and practices to help create communities of lasting value. It was really an honor and privilege to have so many of my peers here in Ottumwa on the walking tours and the session that I led, and throughout the receptions, all the other parts of the conference. I really heard warm things from everyone about their experience in Ottumwa and a lot of wonderful feedback. And Brad's going to share a message from the president of APA shortly. Community Planning Month is also an opportunity to provide an update on planning activities to the council and to the public, and just a few that I want to check in on. The first is the master plan for Greater Ottumwa Park. That's in its last stages of development, and we expect to present that plan to the council at either the first or second meeting in November. The last round of public meetings was really encouraging. On the parks plan, we had 2 full rooms for the morning and evening meeting, and we're really excited to begin working on the vision that plan is going to have for a shared space that everyone can enjoy. Retail strategies, like Councilman Rose said, will be in Ottumwa tomorrow for their first site visit, and that relationship is going to be a big economic development job, which is already starting to bear fruit. They've had some really strong leads going into the ICSC show in Chicago that they're going to be marketing Ottumwa property at the end of this week. But that partnership also includes a planning project developing a retail development plan for downtown, which includes Main Street and Church Street. And one thing I want to do right away is sort of plant a flag that we plan on pursuing and winning the Economic Development Award at next year's conference for that planning effort. I think that it's actually really interesting and unique to have real estate folks lead an effort around planning like that, and I think the results will be something that most folks don't have. Also, last week, I submitted the last of 2 grant applications to support developing a 10-year historic preservation plan for the city. If those are awarded, then we'd look forward to developing that plan throughout 2023 and to create a work plan for preservation activities. Historic preservation has been critical to the downtown redevelopment that we've seen so far, and it's also going to be important as we move forward on neighborhood programming around housing, more economic development downtown, tourism, and a lot of the other things that drive tangible economic impact. I appreciate you listening to the update. I want to share just a couple more things. The first is that I get to spend a lot of time with fellow planners, listening to what they had to say about Ottumwa over the week, and I was really excited. 3 of the words I heard the most were surprise, innovation, and collaboration. And I think that was really great. We had a lot of folks who expected something different from Ottumwa than what they saw, and that they really were excited. Even folks in some of the big cities were talking about how there were things we were doing here that hadn't occurred in other places, and that was really exciting. And it does come down to the work of the council and the rest of our partners. But I also heard the word surprise in a less happy context. I did hear from everyone at the conference that there was no one else that had a staff quite as small as ours working on planning or had so many things assigned to them. Even just in 2017, the department had the director, 2 planners, and a clerk. Today, it's just Jake and I. And we're stretched into quite a few other building and code enforcement tasks than that staff used to do. But I think that the only thing to note there is just that we've already been doing a lot. We've got some great momentum. We've made great progress. But to continue to do that, we'll need to look at more resources in the future. And the only other thing I'll say is that Area 15 regional planning has been a really big force multiplier, allowing us to stretch the thin staff we have into a lot more projects, but they're also pushing the limits of what they can do right now. And that's forcing us to say, you know, we might not go after this grant, or we might not be able to do that project. Speaking of Area 15 regional planning, I'm going to hand over to Brad Grief real quick. He's got a couple of comments about the conference as well, but I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, so you got a lot of agenda left tonight, so I'll keep it real short. It's been a real honor and privilege to work on that conference planning committee for the last 3 years, trying to get these planners from around the state and around the region, not just Iowa, but all the way from Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Chicago area, get people in here to see what we're doing. Madeline Sturms, the president of Iowa APA, Iowa chapter of the APA and community development director in the city of Pleasant Hill, sent me just a few remarks saying, on behalf of planners across the state of Iowa, thank you for hosting the 2022 American Planning Association Iowa chapter annual conference. The local host committee and community members provided an incredible backdrop for planners to connect, network, and see high quality planning work that is being implemented at the local level. The passion and expertise for enhancing the city of Ottumwa was evident in the staff, elected officials, that's you people, and local leaders, that's us out here. Should be proud of the work that we do to improve Main Street, including streetscape improvements, facade and building renovations, investment in arts and culture, and award-winning planning efforts like your 2040 Comprehensive Plan and Mission 500. Attendees of this year's Iowa APA conference left Ottumwa feeling inspired to make positive progress on their own communities. So that's stuff for us to be proud about, hearing that from not just us here in the room, but from all over the state. So thanks.
Thank you, Brad. To kind of finish this recommendation, Zach and I did go ahead and prepare mayor's proclamation. So I'd like to, at this time to read it. I'm going to present it to Zach. Community Planning Month Proclamation, October 2022. Community planning is the discipline of steering and managing change by formulating goals, policies, and strategies to manage land use, transportation, economic development, and housing. The month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month by the American Planning Association and throughout the United States. Community planning efforts in Ottumwa include city staff, volunteer members of boards and commissions, the city council, regional planners at Area 15 Regional Planning, the member organizations of Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress, and other community partners, plus the general public. Community Planning Month is an opportunity to recognize the effort and ingenuity these public servants have contributed to quality of life, economic growth, and community revitalization. The City of Ottumwa and Mission 500 received the Best Practice Award at the American Planning Association Iowa Chapter Conference on October 13th, 2022, for which we're very proud of, and for their work on housing in Ottumwa. Therefore, I, Richard W. Johnson, Mayor of the City of Ottumwa, do proclaim October 2022 as Community Planning Month in the City of Ottumwa, and I extend my congratulations to city staff, the Ottumwa Legacy Foundation, RDG Planning and Design, Rippling Waters, and Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress, and the many community partners who have contributed to Mission 500. So, Zach, I would like to present this to you, and we're very, very pleased and very appreciative for what your department and your team has done. Thank you very much.
Too late.
And I think I've said this before, but I'd like to reiterate it again. I think one of the big reasons that we've been so successful with Main Street, our downtown revitalization project, community development, housing improvements, is because we really have done a good job of collaborating with everybody in the community, working together for a common vision and a common goal. And I think that, to a large extent, is part of the success of why we've been so positive and able to accomplish so much, plus the fact that we have excellent staff, not only within the city, but the other partner organizations that I mentioned tonight. So thank you and keep up the great work. Yeah.
Consider sponsoring a display for holiday nights and lights. Recommendation: authorize staff to prepare a simple agreement with Gopip to sponsor a display for the 18th annual holiday nights and lights.
Phil, do you want to go ahead and ask for a motion for that recommendation?
So moved.
So moved.
You want to second it?
My mic not
Oh,
working.
second. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear the.
Thank you.
Phil, do you want to go ahead and briefly discuss this?
I can, and if you want to add anything, I know this was something that you were interested in, Mayor. I'll just kind of briefly go through the staff summary here. Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress is preparing to host their 18th annual Holiday Nights and Lights. It's estimated that this community event has hosted 250,000 visitors over that time, about 15,000 per year. Additionally, local organizations volunteer to assist with the event, bringing notoriety to their nonprofit groups. When an event serves a public purpose, the city is able to contribute to the private sponsor. A particular event brings a variety of organizations and community members together, as well as visitors from across the region and beyond. These volunteers enjoy a sense of community spirit, and travelers spend dollars in the community, serving a clear public purpose. To outline the relationship between the deliverable Gopip provides from any public dollars contributed, a simple agreement related to the event should be drafted. Mayor Johnson was requesting City Council review the list of available displays, identify they would like to sponsor any of those for the 2022 Holiday Nights and Lights event. And I believe that available ones were attached with this.
Yeah, they are.
Yes, okay. So if there's anything else you wanted to add?
I guess the only other comment, since I was the one that kind of wanted to bring this up, I do think historically, and I think you can feel good about this, the city of Ottumwa has really supported Holiday Nights and Lights ever since its inception by allowing that event to be held, number one, in Ottumwa Park. And I believe the city always pays the electrical bill every year. So it's not like we haven't been supporting Holiday Nights and Lights, and we're going to continue to do that. I just thought it would be a nice gesture this year to see if the city council would be willing to also sponsor one of the less expensive, I'm not talking the high-end displays, but a modest display to show the public that the city of Ottumwa is also willing to invest in this event beyond holding it in the park and paying the electrical bill, which is huge. That's not a small contribution, but I just wanted to bring it up to see if there was an appetite for the council to go ahead and approve payment for one of the displays this year.
So at this point, I appreciate the event and I love the event. My daughter and I go every year. But I do feel that with allowing for the access to the park and also, covering that electricity bill, we are giving that in-kind donation. Honestly, and maybe Jay Greiner can correct me, but I would really like to see the city actually, instead of maybe sponsoring a display, see our city staff maybe help set up Holiday Nights and Lights or volunteer to be night managers. I think that we can put faces with the city at the actual event. We can show up, and I think that there's probably a lack of volunteers is kind of what I'm hearing at times, and so volunteers are needed. So that's how I would like to see the city continue to support the event. And I mean, I'm willing, and I would love to see the other council members, go out there with me and night manage and take tickets. I think Chief Barrington would also like to do that. Larry Seals.
I agree that we do pay the light bill on this. We do give them access to the park but I'm looking at the prices here, and I think there's some that are $250. I think I seen one for $300. On top of, I don't know what we pay for the light bill. I'm sure it's pretty substantial, but I think to put the name, the city of Ottumwa, also out there on one of these lights, I don't think $250 is much to ask for, but I do agree with you that maybe we can help volunteer this year as well, get some of the city staff out there volunteering. And, I have lots of free time on my hand right now, so I'm definitely going to be helping you guys out a little bit. So.
I wouldn't mind having the city donate $300 for one myself.
Would you like to make that as part of the amended motion?
Yes.
Amended to no more than $300.
Hey, quick question. Hey, Barb, remember when we had the Parks Day and city staff were allowed to volunteer on staff time? I think that would be awesome if we could look at the potential for that during setup or tear down.
So they're pretty busy doing that.
But you're talking about anyone in the city, not just the park staff, right?
Anyone,
Yeah, okay.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll ask
What was the
Chris
recommendation? I'm sorry.
to take roll call on the amended motion.
Okay, so you guys are wanting to authorize staff to prepare a simple agreement with Gopip to sponsor a display not to exceed more than $300 at the 18th annual Holiday Nights and Lights. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we have Russ, did you make the motion or
Yeah, I can
Doug?
make-
Doug, you made the
Doug
motion
made
and
the
you
motion,
seconded
I
it.
second,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, Chris will take the roll.
Okay, so Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Abstain.
Councilmember Galloway.
No.
Okay, so it passes 3-2. Passes 3-2.
Okay, thank you.
Additional professional engineering services for easements, plats, and descriptions, temporary and/or permanent, for the CSO Blake's Branch Phase 8, Division 1, east of Iowa Avenue project. Recommendation: authorize payments to Garden and Associates for professional services for easement plats.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Seals, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. During project development, there are occasions when the city is required to develop easements on private property. This type of work requires us to hire professional surveyors to create plats of surveys that are then recorded. We entered into a professional base hourly agreement for Phase 8 sewer separation projects with Garden and Associates. The current rate schedule for 2022 has been updated and is attached. The design of the East of Iowa separation project requires 2 permanent easements and 7 temporary construction easements. As we continue refining other Phase 8 projects, we will bring additional invoices for approval. The total of this invoice is $6,408.54. We are in the process of actually contacting owners. We've met with a few, and then we'll have to do the actual agreement, bring them back to council for approval and recording.
Does council have any questions for Larry? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
Approve the proposal for professional services from Calhoun Burns and Associates Incorporated to prepare a feasibility study for an elevated bridge on North Quincy Avenue over Bear Creek and the IC&E Railroad tracks. Recommendation: approve the proposal for professional services from Calhoun Burns and Associates Incorporated.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Seals, you're up again.
This will provide for a desktop review to be performed with the goal of determining the potential project cost and related effects of building an elevated bridge over the IC&E railroad tracks. The work would include determining required vertical profiles, impacts to adjacent property, identify environmental review, permitting requirements, and associated cost. The cost of the feasibility study will be split between Wapello County and the city of Ottumwa. The desktop review will be charged at an hourly rate not to exceed $6,500. This is a project that we're going to split, and Wapello County has agreed to pay 50%. I would like to say that this started with the merger of railroads to where the traffic on IC&E tracks is going to increase over the next year, and then talking with the local crews, they're going to go further in the following years. I do have a quick video. This is just to kind of give you a general idea. I think everybody here is aware that a lot of times during crew changes, a rail car does stop right here, or rail cars, and they block this at times clear up to 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Technically, it should be 10 minutes or less. Anyway, that's one of the things we want to look at. What we'll have to look at in the design is by the time you get clearance over the tracks, your fill will be clear out in these areas on both sides. That's something that'll be determined in this study, along with what do we do with this existing Bear Creek bridge, what is the landing points, and then they'll be able to determine a total cost of this project. I would say that I know there's been a lot of interest, a lot of political effort put in talking to individuals over the last several years. And that way we can at least look at this and see, does this make sense? Or do we need to do an alternate detour route, which is approximately 1.8 miles? Maybe that's something we need to look at also. And we've discussed multiple options, but we need a starting point on total cost.
Any questions for Larry?
Just to clarify, this is just basically looking at that crossing right there by Applebee's, right? Just to
Yeah.
kind of get over the Applebee's crossing.
Yeah, basically starting back here at the Black Hawk Road and wherever it lands, which I think it'll land past this bridge. So then you have to also consider what do we do on this end when you look at your maximum grade that a bridge can be built, and then the minimum height over the rails, along with girder height and deck thicknesses, you end up clear back in these areas to land.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I guess the one thing I would add, because I've been somewhat involved in this, we've got a local planning committee that's been working on this. And we do have the possibility of applying for up to $1 million planning grant from U.S. Department of Transportation in year 2. There really wasn't enough time this year to get that in by the due date. And then there's also the ability to apply for a huge construction grant down the road. But we thought, and I appreciate Larry and the county engineer's input on this, that it makes sense to do this kind of down and dirty assessment first to see if it's even going to be feasible. And if it's not going to be feasible, then why spend all the time and money to put together a bigger grant next year? So the city and the county is willing to share this cost 50-50. And I think the total cost is projected to be around $6,400. So we thought this was a good way to really show the citizens that we are at least trying to address their concerns and see if there is the possibility where there's enough road length to even build an elevated bridge over that railroad crossing without conflicting with Theater Drive and Applebee's and Vons. So I really am excited that this has been brought to the council, because I think this is a good segue to do something preliminarily, which will help determine if we're going to go forward next year with a larger grant. Does anybody have any other comments or questions for Larry?
I just think it's way overdue, and at least make a starting point now and see what we can come up with. Especially since Larry's been notified that it's just going to be more trains, which means more stoppage, within the next year or two. So.
And I and Phil, I think both have received several citizen complaints over this past year about the lengthy delays where that road is blocked. And the other incidence is the other railroad crossing down the road also tends to be blocked at the same time. So for businesses and people that live on Black Hawk Road, sometimes there's no way they can get back there. So it has become a huge issue, and there's a lot of people that are concerned about it. So I think this is showing that we are concerned and we're trying to do our due diligence to assess whether it's a feasible project or not. So, Larry, do you have any other comments you want to make?
No.
Okay, thank you. Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Project presentation for Iowa DOT project US 34 Wildwood Drive to West Junction US 63. Recommendation, provide a presentation to City Council on the proposal by the Iowa DOT project US 34 Wildwood Drive to West Junction US 63.
Okay, Larry.
The Department of Transportation has been working with the city of Ottumwa on developing concepts to improve safety and traffic flow operations for approximately 2.5 miles of US 34 from Wildwood to 63. The department has held multiple public input meetings, actively seeking and considering input from attendees. During the same time period, the engineering department has had multiple design and review sessions with district staff. There's 3 main concepts that have developed over the last 5 years. In the handout that I included in the packet, it includes pros and cons that you can read through and kind of recreate a lot of these public input meetings. I don't know if any of you attended. We've had a lot of changes in those seats. That's one of the things that we want to do, is get this back out in front of not only the council, but kind of back out into the public. It appears that it'll probably be funded in the next 1 or 2 years into the DOT 5-year cycle. With the first one, let's just go to option 1. It really, to boil it down really simple, it's just replace, reconstruct along the existing alignment with same ramps, bridges, lane widths, and some lane lengths be improved. There are some some things that we can't meet all current design standards. So that's one of the options that really, if you look at the cons and balance not only our needs, but the DOT's, that one didn't gain a lot of traction when you weigh maintenance and future costs for not only bridges, but other operational items. Let's go to option 2.
Larry, for the benefit of the public, could you just briefly say where's the starting point and ending point for this project?
It'll start at Wildwood here by Coles, and it goes basically just short of the new pavement of the roundabout. So Vine Street, Jeff, Church, and Wapello Street Extension, and the Quincy intersection.
Thank you.
So approximately 2.5 miles. And option 2 is to replace and reconstruct at grade with additional signalized intersection. That's one of the things that we really wanted to try to avoid. A lot of times when you're looking at a through corridor, you try to keep your total time through down to a minimum. As you continue to put in more signalized intersections, that means these profiles have been dropped to where these are coming across. Each one of these would be signalized. And again, that's a lot of time. This would virtually remain the same. Same with these, just reconstructed with new pavement. There would be significant changes here because it too would go to grade. We didn't really like that, and in the modeling that we reviewed with the DOT staff, again, kind of showed what we'd have from conflict points, safety concerns. Anytime you start adding that many more stop conditions, it's a trade-off on all designs. The third option is a replace, reconstruct at grade with roundabouts. So you can see that this would eliminate traffic signals that are already there. The same here, of course, with the current count and the protected left turns, the phasing on this has become quite lengthy. If one of the questions we had today was, is there slip lanes? So for Wapello Street, 149, and the highway, you have slip lanes on each of these turns, and that really reduces the total number of traffic that is in the roundabout itself. So that's good. If you look at design standards, it really reduces the number of conflict points, which reduces accidents, and especially the high-speed accidents. You do have probably an increase in minor stuff. We haven't really seen that here, though. We've only had very few in the last 3 years. It's really reduced the accidents here. So the same thing would be here. It would be at grade, 2 roundabouts, or almost a peanut-shaped one, which that is an actual roundabout when they do that. Same here. You'd have at the Vine Street a roundabout. It maintains access into this business. And if we ever do an access point along the levee for the Bridgeview Center, we'd still have access at this point. It continues to feed John Deere. One thing that I would say that we've discussed would be to add somewhere in this quadrant another underpass for pedestrians like we did here. And then we'd also have to have, as part of this project, another underpass or culvert as part of this project. That's really the quick one. I know I give you just the general overview that was handed out at the public meetings in the past few years. If there's any specific questions, or I'd invite the public, if they're interested in this, we have it electronically.
And it's my understanding that when you did that public input a few years back, option 3 was by far the option that most of the public supported. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, I was just going to say something similar that the previous council approved option 3 also, correct?
Yeah, and it was just a kind of a request to bring everybody up to speed, get it back in front of the public, because it's been kind of on the back burner, and now we can have the DOT go ahead and start their funding process.
Could you explain, Larry, or do you know how it's going to be funded and what the breakdown is?
No, the DOT is funding. I'm not sure what funds they're using.
It's 100% DOT.
They haven't come to us for an ask. So yes, 100% as far as I know.
Okay.
So just to collect, Just a clarifying, when you say at grade, are you meaning, are they going to lower them or are they going to, what it's at now?
Right. You know how for the bridges, they come up for clearance underneath. You'll probably see on the profiles, there's some profiles in that handout. Basically, if you come off of this part that is flat through here, and it'll dip down some and then come back up a little. But generally, again, if you look at the profiles, I think this intersection is about 5 feet higher than the roads underneath. And so it's kind of a medium between where it currently sets on a vertical profile.
So they're not going to be at the platform of the bridge height. They're going to be more down.
Yeah, the
level.
grade will be cut.
Okay. That was the clarifying I wanted to, just to make sure that people understand that, like, we're not going to put roundabouts up 30 feet in the air. We're actually going to bring them down to the ground, or the state is anyway. So thank you, Larry.
So just for clarification purposes, are you wanting the current council to go ahead and vote on one of these three options tonight?
Not really. I guess I just was looking
Okay.
at just an informational item to bring everybody on board. I didn't really put it in, I don't think, as an action item, as more of an informational item.
Well, are they going to have to at some point?
Right.
Later.
Because they need a response pretty soon. Okay, so that'll be brought up at a later date, asking the council to take formal action.
They didn't request me to do formal action.
Not yet.
No, usually to bring the council up to speed and make sure everyone's on the same page. So when DOT proceeds, they know that we're supportive of the project.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I think unless there's any objection, I mean, that would be general consensus to proceed.
Okay. I just trying to clarify it.
I will just voice that I don't like roundabouts, but that's a personal opinion.
But you're okay with the project to proceed?
I'm okay with the project to proceed, though.
Okay.
So we don't need to vote then. Okay, we'll go ahead then and move on to resolutions.
Resolution number 253, 2022, approving change order number 1 and accepting the work as final and complete, and approving the final pay request for the 2022 friction seal project. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 253, 2022.
So moved.
Okay, Larry.
This project applied a friction seal surface treatment to the Wapello Street extension. This treatment protects the existing asphalt from oxidation and it is expected to last 6 to 9 years. The treatment is similar to a chip and seal, except it uses angular granite chips instead of pea gravel. Unlike with pea gravel, the angular chips won't come loose and get kicked up by high-speed traffic. The chips also improve the road friction versus the existing asphalt surface. Change order 1 increases the contract sum by $18,906.34 for a new contract sum of $128,420.84. The contractor has completed the work according to the plans and specifications, and this will release all retainage and authorize final payment.
Council have any questions for Larry? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Resolution number 254, 2022, approving change order number 4 for the North Market Facade Improvements Project. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 254, 2022.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second. Okay, Zach.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The North Market Facade Project received a Community Development Block Grant for $250,000. The remainder of the project is funded by the existing Downtown Development Grant Program and by property owners. Change Order 4 makes changes to the ceilings at 114, 118 North Market. The adjustment is $7,188.75, which uses the remaining project contingency, which was $3,981.89 for this building, and also increases the contract sum by $3,206.86. The original contract sum was significantly less than the architect's opinion of cost. The city's share of the change order would be 25%, and the city's contribution does not exceed the budgeted contribution under the Downtown Development Program. The new contract sum would be $280,983.86.
Council have any questions for Zach? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Resolution number 258, 2022, approving updates to personnel policy. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 258, 2022.
Move the recommendation is presented.
Second.
Okay, Barb.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, council. This is really just an update of the personnel policy and putting into policy many of our current practices. The only couple of changes are Article 4, which is recruiting. We've added in our recall policy. This was a policy that was passed back in 2020, but it was a standalone policy. So what we've done is we've taken that and put it into the personnel policy itself and added a couple of stipulations to that policy. So essentially we're going to rescind the policy that was passed back then and replace it with this one. Essentially what we're saying is that employees are going to receive credit for returning to the same job classification and or department rather than just kind of a blanket statement. And then also applying to employees that are returning to active employment within 3 years. So again, if I quit today and come back in 10 years, I will not be credited for my service because we all know things will change in 10 years time. So that is one major change. And then the other change is the employee definition, which is Article 8. We are going to add a variable part-time employee category. The intent behind this is we do have seasonal employees, but seasonal is meant to be 6 months or less. Could possibly be 7, depending upon like weather time and seasonal. In order for operations of some of our departments, we do need employees that are available all year round. However, some of these employees are going to work variable hours. So they are considered part-time. They are not eligible for many of our benefits. And that is stated in there and that is defined in that. But creating this variable part-time employment classification, this allows us to identify employees that may work 1 to 2 hours a week or possibly 10 to 20 hours per week. So this is in addition to that. Everything else is really clarification and putting into policy many of the practices that we currently are doing.
Just for clarification, could you also briefly tell the council how you're planning to make sure all the city employees get updated on a regular basis when all these changes and revisions get made in the future?
Yes. So what we're going to do is when Chris sends out on Wednesday the updated packet from council, we will post that into UKG and we will also email it out to all of our employees. This summary page of what all of the updates are within the personnel policy itself. The packet that you all received, it's got any changes that are made are highlighted. And so that is posted on our website currently, highlighted, so that way our employees can see specifically what has changed.
And all employees have access to UKG because of payroll timesheets and all that. So,
Correct.
you know, the city is going to make a real diligent effort to notify city employees when there's ever any personnel policy updates or changes, but it's also contingent that the employee needs to take some responsibility for reading those and reviewing them so they're aware of what's changed.
The other thing is too that this personnel policy is published on our website. The changes I did specifically are only in the packets for the meetings, but like as of tomorrow, we will update the new personnel policy that's out there on our website, and anything highlighted, anyone would be able to see what was changed.
Any other questions for Barb?
So I do. The recall and reinstating of former employees. I'm glad to see that we've brought this from a standalone policy into the actual handbook and everything. Is there a particular reason where it doesn't, like, because I'm noticing that even if they quit for like 2 years and come back, they can still get their seniority and all that back. Is there a particular reason that it isn't just subject to if we let them go for layoff purposes? Is there a reason if they decide to say I'm a police officer and I decide to go work for Des Moines, Iowa, and I don't like it, and I want to come back to Ottumwa, I can get my seniority back? Is there a particular reason we don't we allow that?
So the recall policy itself is specific to when years of service are calculated. It does specifically state that seniority would not unless it is part of a layoff.
Okay.
If it is something where we do lay somebody off, some of the stipulations are a little bit different simply because we've laid them off. If somebody does quit and decides to come back, what it is it's crediting them 4 years of service when we calculate things that are 4 years of service. So currently the only thing that we utilize that for is longevity pay and also for vacation time. So that would be if somebody does leave and they decide to come back, we would credit them for their years of service only on longevity pay and vacation time.
Is there a particular reason that we would do that for somebody that's, say, quit to go to another company and then decides to come back rather than, if I left my job, say I was working at Cargill Meats and I left Cargill Meats and then I was up to $20 an hour and I start at 14. When I go back to Cargill, they're not going to give me $20 back. Why is the city of Ottumwa giving that employee back after they quit their job?
Phil was going to
Yeah,
answer that.
yeah. The part of that equation is the assumption that we want to take that employee back.
Incentive.
So, if they quit, they still have to apply. They still have to be rehired. It's still on us, the supervisor or the city as the employer to say, we value enough that even though you walked away from us at that time, you have enough value that, to come back to work for the community. And so in that case, if we're saying, yep, we value what you bring to the table, we want to have you come back, we're willing to overlook that you walked out on us. And it's within that 3-year window, which is a change to this, that we'd be willing to say, yeah, we're going to credit you with that time you put in on the job previously.
It's not
This
uncommon for
adds
other
that
agencies to do that.
stipulation.
The state does it. So if you leave, you can come back, you gain we don't have seniority really anymore, but you get your pay, you get your, so it's not uncommon, it's incentives.
And this adds that stipulation and puts some parameters around it because before there were none. And so this states that, and it gives us that 3-year. And the intent behind that is it matches the layoff policy, the layoff portion of that policy of 3 years that you can retain on a preferred list for up to 3 years. So we made that to match that.
Okay. I thank you for the clarification. There's still some things that I got to wrap my head around with when it comes to city government, because it's a lot different than businesses. So
No
thank you
worries.
for that.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with that. I think if they quit, they quit. If they come back and we want to hire them again, that's fine, but they shouldn't have kept what they had. And my personality is always out for the underdog. And I'm thinking how many people that got hired after that person quit, how are they going to feel if we give this person the same, the benefits that he had before he quit? You know what I mean? I guess I'm looking at the overall picture there, and you can't do it in any other job.
The state does it. You can leave the state and you can come back and come in at the same rate of pay. And actually their policy is longer too.
Any other questions for Barb? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
Resolution number 259, 2022, approving change order number 1 and accepting the work as final and complete and approving the final pay request for the Lillian Street reconstruction project. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 259, 2022.
Move the recommendation is presented.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Seals, you got the next 3.
This project involved full depth, full width PCC reconstruction of Lillian Street from Mary Street to William Street. Work included the ADA compliant handicap drop, storm, sanitary sewer improvements. We worked with the Ottumwa Water Works on replacement of an existing water main. Any water main work will be reimbursed by Ottumwa Water Works. Change order 1 increases the contract sum by $14,060.42. The new contract amount is $835,395.92. The contractor has completed the work according to the plans and specifications, and this will release all retain each and authorize final payment. We broke out the final cost for waterworks, which would end up being $183,357.55.
Council have any questions for Larry? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Resolution number 260, 2022, approving and authorizing the purchase of certain real property and authorizing execution of a real estate purchase agreement with the estate of Robert F. Box. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 260, 2022.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Larry.
The purchase of a vacant property located at 1223 Albee Road is necessary for the development of the Albee Road and Quincy Avenue roundabout project. A court officer deed and quitclaim deed have been prepared by the estate. The agreed price for the lot is $15,000, adjusted for prorated taxes at the date of closing. Once the project has been designed and the total right-of-way is determined, the remaining lot will be disposed of to any interested party. I included a breakdown of the closing statement for the property. It is attached. The funding source is road use. Basically, what we're looking at is this entire lot here. Over the years, we've taken several pieces and a couple different actions as we put in a conspan bridge, as we put in other utilities. When we made our last improvement, we had to take a piece for the sidewalk and the retaining wall. This way, we'll clean all this up, get plenty of right-of-way, and then we'll dispose of this. One of the proposals we have is if we need to come down here, we're working with this new property owner and this existing property owner. And as we get something developed, we'll bring it back before council.
Council have any questions for Larry? Not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yeah.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Resolution number 261, 2022, approving change order number 1 and accepting the work as final and complete and approving the final pay request for the 2022 RFP number 2 West End Valve Check Installation Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 261, 2022.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Seals.
This project relayed and connected the pipe joints for a stormwater outfall into Harrell's Branch. An inline check valve was installed at the outfall end of the pipe being relayed. The check valve will stop water from Harrell's Branch from backing up into the protected side of the levee. This way, we can reduce our operational efforts by leaving the gate open, and then we won't have to, at every major rain event, pull a pump down and set it up. We'll have more time to respond to this area without flooding the interior of the middle cell. Change order 1 increases the contract sum by $1,800 to relay and connect an additional section of pipe. So the original bid was $8,200. The new contract amount is $10,000. The contractor has completed the work according to plans and specifications, and this will release all retainage and authorize final payment.
Council have any questions for Larry? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
The next agenda item is our public forum, and this is where I usually ask if there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak on something that's not on tonight's agenda, and I believe we do have one individual that would like to speak, so I'll ask Mr. Grinder to come forward and give his name and address.
I'm Matt Griner, running for State Senate, District 13. My address is Bloomfield, Iowa, rural Bloomfield, Iowa, 13808. And I grew up, and Mr. Seals grew up about a quarter of a mile from me in Davis County. But I wanted to have the opportunity to come tonight and speak to the city council and introduce myself. And if I get elected to the Senate, I hope you folks come up and visit me while I'm up there. So as far as my experience with the city council, I wrote a few things down. I'm on the Ready Board with Chris Bauer and Area 15. We've loaned the city several thousands of dollars in loans for beginning businesses here in Davis County. Housing Trust Fund Board. School board, buildings and trades house, we give some money for that for the school. And we've rehabbed some houses here in Davis County, hope to support those too. So as I came over here tonight, I thought, boy, I don't know nothing about city council, but as I sit here, I got to thinking about it. And yeah, I do kind of work with the city council in a roundabout way through the county, because I'm a county supervisor for the past 12 years in Davis County. And then I heard somebody state workforce development. And I was chairman of the workforce for development for like 10 years. So I'm very proficient in talking about that kind of stuff too. So I've got a lot of experience, but I know nothing about city council. And I must have come to the longest city council you guys have all year.
I assure you, you did.
I hate to tell you, but no, you haven't. We've had a longer one than this.
Shay told me this was the wrong one to come to. So thank you for having me, guys.
Well, thank you very much, and good luck with the election.
Yep.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is either the mayor or city council have any reports or communications. I already did the proclamation tonight, so I don't have anything else. I'll ask the city council if they have anything they want to report on or communicate to the public.
I do. So I would just ask that as Phil or whomever to have Bridge City Sanitation come and present to the council. I think they're one of our biggest contracts, and I think that the people of Ottumwa would appreciate that they come and present. And I think it would be good for the council to hear from them.
And the airport. We've been asking about that one for about a year now.
That would be great too.
Yes.
Yeah, so the airport is planned, and that is something that JD Wheaton and I are actually working on.
Perfect.
There's been some delays in that, but yes, that is planned.
Council have any other communications they'd like to make? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the city council meeting.
So move second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good evening.